The break room coffee tasted like liquid regret mixed with burnt rubber. But at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night, taste becomes irrelevant. You're just chasing the caffeine hit that might keep your eyelids from welding shut. I'm Diana Chen, Senior Infrastructure Engineer at Global Flow Systems for the past 8 years. That's corporate speak for. I'm the person who keeps the digital plumbing working while everyone else takes credit for the running water. I was 4 days away from Operation Sentinel, a continental rollout that would automate our entire freight management network. My vision was blurred, my back screamed with every keystroke, and my stress levels could probably power a small city. By the way, if you're into corporate revenge stories where loyalty gets repaid with betrayal, hit that subscribe button. Your support means more than my therapist's validation. Seriously, thank you. I was knee-deep in stress testing the failover protocols I'd written back, when I still believed hard work got rewarded instead of weaponized against you. The building had that eerie after-hours silence, just the air conditioning's mechanical wheeze, and the distant wail of a car alarm mourning someone's stolen catalytic converter. I was rewriting a compatibility module that looked like it was coded during the dial-up era, when my office door slid open without warning. No knock. No courtesy. Just invasion. Enter Derek. Derek Hoffman, VP of Digital Infrastructure. I call him the haircut in my head because everything about him is surface level, perfectly styled, completely hollow. Derek is the living embodiment of failing upward. A man who's climbed the corporate ladder so fast he's never actually learned what any of the rungs do. He walked in smelling like overpriced aftershave and unearned authority, wearing a suit that costs more than my car payment. Diana, he said with that practice smile that screams I'm about to ruin your week, but I'll use buzzwords to soften the blow. It's Dr. Chen, I said without looking up. I have a PhD in computer science. I earned that title through blood, tears, and student debt that'll outlive me. Burning the late-night oil I see. Love the dedication. The synchronization layer was fragmenting, I replied, eyes locked on my triple monitor setup. A cascading wall of code that would make most people nauseous. If I don't seal this before tomorrow's load simulation, the European servers will choke before breakfast. Derek laughed, a thin artificial sound like crinkling cellophane. That's exactly what I wanted to discuss. You're always so focused on the micro details, Diana. Always obsessing over the technical weeds. I finally spun my chair around. My vertebrae cracked like bubble wrap. Derek, those weeds are the only thing preventing this company from becoming a cautionary tale in a business school textbook. What do you want? He perched on the edge of my desk, actually sitting on my documentation. The audacity was almost impressive. We've been evaluating team dynamics in the tech division. With Sentinel launching, we need agility. We need fresh energy. My niece Madison, you've met her, right? She's our innovation coordinator. The one who asked if we could just restart the internet when the proxy server went down? My voice was flat as a heart monitor in a morgue. She has vision, Derek said, his eyes cold behind designer frames. She thinks your protocols are bloated. She calls it legacy friction. We need to pivot toward a more streamlined, modern approach. I blinked slowly. Derek, that friction is a firewall preventing cryptocurrency miners from turning our logistics network into their personal gold mine. He held up a hand, manicured, soft, never done a day of real work. We've decided to move in a different direction, Diana. Effective tonight. The oxygen left my lungs in a rush. I'm sorry. We're terminating your employment, he said, checking his smartwatch like he had reservations at some trendy restaurant. Severance is standard. 2 weeks' pay. But we need you off the premises immediately. Security is already en route. You're firing me. The words tasted metallic. 4 days before the biggest system deployment in company history. Because your niece thinks my code isn't vibe-friendly enough. It's about cultural alignment, Derek said, standing and smoothing his jacket. You're too cautious, Diana. You triple-check everything. You build redundancies for redundancies. Medicine moves fast. She's not afraid to break things to innovate. She's going to break the entire company, I whispered. My hands were steady. Rage has a way of crystallizing your focus, turning panic into precision. Tony will escort you out, Derek said, nodding toward the doorway where Tony, our night security guard, stood looking like he wanted to disappear. Tony knew me. I'd helped him fix his daughter's laptop last month. He stared at his shoes. I need to document the patch, I said, reaching for my keyboard. Don't touch company property, Derek snapped, his corporate veneer cracking. Madison takes over lead engineer at 7 a.m. tomorrow. She'll handle the integration. I stood up slowly. I'm not physically imposing, but I've been told I have the energy of a wolverine that just had its coffee spiked with espresso. I grabbed my bag. I grabbed my pack of emergency cigarettes from my drawer, my secret vice, usually reserved for roof access stress relief. Madison, I said, letting the name sit heavy in the air. The girl who thought Python was a Netflix documentary series. She finished an 8-week coding boot camp, Derek. 8 weeks. She's certified in Agile methodology, he said defensively. Right. I looked at my monitors one last time. The command prompt blinked at the end of a critical script. Uncommitted. Unsaved. I reached over and powered off the center monitor. You're making a catastrophic mistake, Derek. A multi-million-dollar catastrophe. I'll take my chances with the future, he sneered. Now please. You're making this awkward. There was literally no one else in the office to witness this awkwardness. But in Derek's mind, he was already rehearsing this story for the executive team. How he optimized the department, how he brought in Gen Z innovation. I walked past Tony. It's okay, Tony. Just doing your job. I'm really sorry, Dr. Chen, Tony mumbled, his face flushed with second-hand shame. This isn't right. It's not your fault the inmates are running the asylum, I told him. As I walked down the corridor, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A sound I usually tuned out, but tonight it sounded like a countdown timer. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not sadness. Not even anger. Just the brutal clarity that loyalty is a one-way street in the modern corporate world. I'd given this place 8 years. My health. My relationships. My best code. And they'd traded me for nepotism wrapped in a ring light and a LinkedIn profile full of motivational quotes. I hit the elevator button. The down arrow illuminated. Too slow, I muttered, lighting a cigarette right there in the hallway, directly under the no smoking sign. Let's see how that works out for you. The elevator descent felt like falling through circles of corporate hell. If hell were lined with brushed steel and smelled like industrial-strength floor cleaner, Tony stood in the corner, trying to make himself invisible. I didn't blame him. He was just trying to afford his kids' orthodontist bills. I was the one holding a cardboard box containing a stapler, a framed photo of my late cat, the only male who never mansplained Linux to me, and a stress ball shaped like a hand grenade. When the doors opened on the ground floor, I expected to be escorted directly to the parking garage. But Derek, in his infinite incompetence, had forgotten my access badge was still on my desk upstairs. Tony, I need my badge, I said. Can't get my car out of the garage without it. Unless you want me to ram the gate. Tony looked panicked. I can go grab it. I know where it is, I said. Right next to the master server keys. We went back up. This time, when the elevator doors opened, the silence was gone. Music blasted through the floor. Terrible, soulless electronic pop that sounded like a dying robot's final screams. And there, sitting at my desk, in my ergonomic chair I'd broken in over 3 years, was Madison. She looked like she'd been assembled in a factory that mass-produces Instagram influencers. Perfect makeup, perfect nails, and a terrifying void where situational awareness should exist. She'd shoved my dual-monitor setup aside to make room for her laptop, which was plastered with stickers. Girl boss. Code and coffee. Control plus Alt plus defeat. But what stopped my heart wasn't the stickers. It was what was on my main screen. The launch console. Open. Active. The command prompt I'd abandoned was gone, replaced by the shiny, vendor-supplied GUI dashboard. The one I never used because it had the reliability of a chocolate teapot in a sauna. Oh my God, Diana. Madison chirped, spinning around like I was a celebrity guest. She didn't look guilty. She looked delighted. Derek said you were leaving. Total bummer vibes. But hey, fresh starts, right? I stared at the screen over her shoulder. A red progress bar pulsed in the corner. Database replication. Manual override active. Madison, I said, my voice dangerously calm. What did you do to the replication protocols? She giggled. Actually giggled. Oh, that. It kept giving me these super annoying error messages about data integrity and sync conflicts. So I just disabled the warnings. Look how much faster it runs now. She pointed proudly. The progress bar was indeed moving fast. Racing toward 100%. My stomach dropped into the building's foundation. She hadn't just disabled warnings. She'd bypassed the load distribution governors. She was essentially redlining a Formula One engine with no oil while pouring sand into the fuel tank. That's not speed, I said, gripping my cardboard box so hard the grenade deformed. That's a memory cascade. You're flooding the buffer. You're being super negative, she sighed, rolling her eyes. Derek said you were stuck in the past. Look, I'm just prepping the environment for tomorrow's launch. Think of it like preheating an oven. You're not preheating an oven, I said. You're setting the entire kitchen on fire. Tony touched my arm. Dr. Chen, we really need to go. I looked at Madison. She was already back on her phone, probably posting a selfie captioned, "Late night grind laptop computer sparkles #TechLife #Women in Him." She had no idea. She was sitting on a digital nuclear device and using the detonator as a fidget toy. I calculated the timeline in my head. The buffer would overflow in approximately 7 minutes. The database would attempt to write to locked partitions. Then the transaction logs would corrupt. Then Sentinel would collapse. Not quietly but spectacularly, publicly, catastrophically. I turned and walked away. There was no point explaining quantum mechanics to someone who thought atoms were a cryptocurrency. Back in the elevator, the doors closed, blocking Madison and her preheated disaster. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over a contact. Harrison Cole, CEO. Harrison Cole. The founder. The original engineer who'd built GlobalFlow from a garage in Cleveland. He wasn't a suit. He was a builder. He'd always respected competence. Or so I thought, until he'd let his VP hire a family member to lead the most critical project in company history. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe Derek had spun him a story. I looked at the time. 11:56 p.m. The crash would hit around 12:03 a.m. I typed with surgical precision. To Harrison Cole. Message. Your system fails in 7 minutes. Good luck. I hit send. The elevator chimed at the lobby. Bernice, the night concierge, a sweet woman who always asked about my cat, waved at me. I didn't wave back. I just stared at my phone. 3 dots appeared instantly. Then the reply. From Harrison Cole. Message. Don't leave the building. I stopped in the middle of the marble floor. The revolving door was 20 feet away. Freedom. Unemployment. Wine. A long therapeutic cry. My phone buzzed again. From Harrison Cole. Message. I'm 90 seconds out. Wait. I looked at Tony. Tony, I think I'm going to sit on this very expensive couch for a minute. Tony looked at his radio, then at me. Technically, ma'am, you're trespassing now. Technically, Tony, I said, dropping my box on the Italian leather sofa. I'm the only person in this time zone who knows where the digital bodies are buried. And in about 5 minutes, they're going to start floating to the surface. Set. I crossed my legs. I waited. The lobby silence was thick and expensive. It felt like the calm before a very, very expensive storm. The 9 a.m. emergency board meeting was sterile and tense. Men in expensive suits sat around polished wood, drinking sparkling water and looking appropriately concerned. Harrison sat at the head. I sat at his right hand. I wasn't wearing a suit. I was wearing my hoodie, jeans, and the weight of saving an entire company on my shoulders. The incident last night has been contained, Harrison told them. Thanks to the decisive action of our new Chief Technology Officer, Dr. Diana Chen. He gestured to me. Every head turned. They didn't see a tired woman with coffee stains on her sleeve. They saw the firewall. The insurance policy. The person who held the keys to the kingdom. Dr. Chen, the board chairman said. Can you guarantee this won't happen again? I can guarantee, I said, my voice hoarse from a night of chain smoking and emergency coding, that as long as I'm running this infrastructure, no one touches the core systems without my explicit authorization. We're returning to a stability-first model. No more vibes. Just math. They nodded. They loved math. Math made money. I walked out of that meeting with a new title, a salary that looked like a phone number, and an access card that opened every door in the building. I went back to the server room. The team was there, Kevin, Sandra, Miguel, working quietly. The panic was gone. The rhythm was back. That steady, mechanical hum of a healthy data center. It's the most beautiful sound in the world. Hey boss, Kevin said, pointing at my desk. I removed all the inspirational stickers Madison left. Use Goo. Excellent work, Kevin, I said. Now patch the email server properly this time. I walked to my office, my real office, and closed the door. I sat in my chair, the one with the broken lumbar support. I'd order a new one tomorrow. Herman Miller. The expensive kind. I pulled up the system logs one final time. Everything was green. The world was moving. Trucks were rolling. Containers were shipping. And nobody outside this building knew that for 7 minutes, the global supply chain had held its breath because a 23-year-old wanted to make the dashboard aesthetic. I opened my desk drawer and pushed aside the stress grenade. I pulled out a small bottle of whiskey I kept for emergencies. This wasn't an emergency. This was a celebration. I poured a shot into my world's okayest engineer mug. I didn't play music. I just sat in the silence. The good kind of silence. The kind that means everything is working exactly as it should. I took a sip. It burned. It felt perfect. The system was stable. The parasites were gone. And I was still here. Too cautious. I whispered to the empty room, raising my mug to the monitors. I watched my career reboot, and this time, I was in control. Big thanks, you beautiful corporate survivors. Subscribe to keep the Chaos Chronicles coming.